Mike, let's talk about inflation.
Yes, I have a little trivia game here. We're gonna take you back in time, do a little Price is Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to look back over the last 30 years. We'll take it back to 1983. And you need to share, and Brent will come along with us. You need to identify what you think the cost was in 1983. I'll tell you what the cost is today. So today, a gallon of gas, average nationally for regular gas, is $3.44 a gallon. What was it 30 years ago?
Ooh. I'm going to guess about $1.
Not too bad. $1.24. $1.24 was a gallon of gas.
Almost a 300% increase.
I actually remember because in 1983 I was working next door to a gas station, and that gas station ran a promo for $1 a gallon gas, and there was such a line that the police had to show up to direct traffic. It was the only reason I knew it was higher than $1.
Can you imagine what it would be today if they did $1 a gallon? It would be ultimate chaos.
First class stamp. Today a first class stamp is 45 cents. What do you think it was 30 years ago?
They raise the prices on that, seems like every year. I will guess 25 cents.
Pretty good. You're running pretty close. We're running at 20 cents for a first class stamp.
Wow.
30 years ago. Minimum wage. Minimum wage for federal minimum wage today is $7.25 per hour. What do you think minimum wage was in 1983?
Wow, I would bet it was pretty low. I'll say $2.50.
$2.50. That is a little low. It came in at $3.25 in 1983.
So it's increased, almost doubled in the last 30 years.
Yeah, more than doubled.
Okay.
And this one, I can only go from recent experience. The price of a movie ticket. Now I know I took the family out last weekend, and it was a weekend rate. So I don't know if you can get them cheaper during the week, but weekend rate we paid $10 a head to go to the local movie theater. What do you think it cost 30 years ago on average?
I'm gonna guess $5.
Lower, $3.15.
Wow. Movies are getting more expensive.
Yeah.
What about the popcorn and the pop and
Not sure if they're
else?
getting better, but
well, that's true.
But I do like the HD thing. It's tough to not watch HD anymore.
I know. Hey, by the way, Mike, I did look because I knew you were going to try to play this game with me. What was the top 2 movies back in '83? And the top grossing movie was Star Wars Return of the Jedi, which I remember well.
And the only reason you brought this in is because you're a big Star Wars freak.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a Star Wars nerd. That is fair. And then the Academy Award winner, as my wife would say, was a chick flick. It was called Terms of Endearment, which I would never have remembered.
No, I remember the movie, but I would have never remembered that.
I had no idea. Interesting to look back.
Well, the tough part about managing your retirement when it comes to the inflation component is you have to be able to kind of reminisce about the future, as we say. You have to identify what things are going on today and what they're going to look like in the future. So, for example, if you're looking at $40,000 of annual income today, annual retirement income, the historical inflation rate has been, going back to 1914, has been 3.14% is the average. If you just take that and you now project that forward 30 years, so we were going back in time 30 years, now if we project that forward in 30 years from now, you would have to have a retirement annual income of over $100,000 in order to have the same purchasing power that you have today with $40,000. So that changes and has a huge impact on what you need to do and how you need to think moving into retirement. And then to make things even more confusing, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, which is essentially where they deviate inflation off of, that is a breakdown, or can be broken down, I should say, into 8 subcomponents. And then they have all these little slivers that fit into these subcomponents, and it's supposed to, in theory, kind of represent the average person, if you will. But as we all know, there is no such thing as the average person, because your lifestyle is different based on your age, based on what's going on in any certain segment or time frame of your life. based on the makeup of what your family looks like. Do you have a lot of kids? Do you have no kids? Are you divorced? Are you already retired? Maybe you're not yet married. Whatever all these cases might be. So you really have to look at where are you spending your money and what do those rates look like. So if the CPI, if we go back to the year 2000 and then bring it up to today, the CPI is up. Consumer Price Index is up 36.5%. However, energy is up 122.5%. So almost 123% versus 36.5%. So if you're spending a lot of your money on energy, so if you have to commute to work a long way, and those gas costs are in there, gas has been increasing on average at, I believe it's about 5.6% per year instead of 3.14% per year. So those things all get baked in there. And when you're looking at those subcomponents, you have to, again, realize that little slivers are put in across the board. But if you are somehow magnified in that area, then the inflation rate means nothing to you because your personal inflation rate is now significantly different than the national average inflation rate.
You're right, Mike. So here we are on Financial HQ Radio, and we're talking about these 12 investment risks, and we're now talking about inflation. And one of the things I wanted to add to your last comments there, Mike, was the makeup of the CPI, the CPI-U, as a lot of people refer to it, because there's also numerous CPI indexes. So when you hear them, you have to be cautious that you are understanding which one they're talking about. But to illustrate your example of the most significant categories that the CPI-U tracks, housing accounts for 41% roughly of those numbers, transportation 17%, food 16%, energy 8%, and medical care at 6%. Well, we know, and some of the things you just shared, that energy and medical care costs are skyrocketing, yet it's not equally weighted within the CPI index. So even though the CPI might be at, say, 3 or 4%, individual categories inside of it could be running at dramatically higher costs, 8, 10, 12% or more, and in some of those examples they are.
Yeah, and so if you just take the three biggies, if you look at energy and you have a long commute, or maybe you have a very large home, or you have a pool in the backyard and you're spending money to heat that pool, whatever the case might be, energy costs is going to mean more to you than to others. If you have a college-age child, the college costs, which is up 118% since year 2000.
Ouch. Thanks for reminding me.
So again, remember, Consumer Price Index is only up 36.5% since year 2000, and yet college prices are up to 118%. So if you're in those years of your life where you have a child in college and you're paying the bill, or the child is paying the bill, you're looking at a much higher personal inflation rate due to that college piece. If you're retired, once you hit retirement ages, the medical expense piece becomes a much more significant portion of your expenses on an annual basis. And so suddenly when they have that sliver in there for that average person who is not necessarily a retired person, they're calculating on the CPI much less than that. So if we look at medical care, it's up over double what the CPI is. So if you're spending a lot on medical expense, then your inflation rate is significantly higher. You're right, Mike. Now, to help out, if you're out there listening and you feel that these are problems for you, please feel free to dial in on our hotline, our Financial HQ hotline at 888-888-9572. We have an extra report that will help on this topic of inflation risk. It's called our Retirement Survival Guide. Again, 888-888-9572.